So this is 5 Minutes with Graham Pugh, the Executive Creative Director at Doco. Hi Graham.
Hello.
Can you give us a quick summary of your career to date, please?
Gosh, blimey, quick summary. Started as a copywriter at BNP in 1987. So that's 24 years ago, which is weird because I'm only 27 now. And then I went to lots of different places that don't even exist anymore. That makes me sound really old. Like Ray Keating-Hamer, who's heard of that? But it was very nice. And Team Saatchi, which still exists, which is a very exciting place, which was really interesting, integrated, when integration was not really happening. Banks Hoggins O'Shea, which was the most middle-class agency in London. It was lovely, working on Waitrose and the National Trust and Blue Water and things like that. And then I went off to be a creative director, so I went off to WDMP, and then I went from there back to Draft FCB, and then recently I've been at a place called Team Spirit doing financial services, and here I am at Doco. So that was it. It was in a nutshell.
Cool. What do you look for in good creatives?
In good creatives, that they love ideas and that they can't stop having them, and that they're really excited, and that they're remembering that that's what they signed up for in the first place. And you get a lot of craft in this industry, and we all get very into our craft as we develop and we get into being professionals, but you want to still see people really connecting with, I want to do, it's kind of that ego, I want to see my work everywhere, I want to see my work, and I want people saying, wow, that's clever.
Is there one thing that you've always taken with you from each agency that you've joined?
What sort of thing? What do you mean?
I don't know, whether it's a particular style or particular approach to things or methodologies.
I think that you take yourself and you take your approach to things, and you do tend to have an affinity with certain brands, and you do tend to end up associating with or having a certain angle on things. But I don't know. I'd like to hope that that I and others would pick up things as you go along, so there's been people that have been tremendously influential on me, and you take a bit of that and take it to the next job, so when I was at Team Saatchi, guy run that was Mike Parker, who was this amazing presenter and was very much into how what you should and shouldn't say in meetings, and you're never negative, and you never say we could do this, you always say this is what we're going to do, and you would do everything in a positive light. And that was a fantastic experience. And then working for Ken Hoggins and Chris O'Shea at Banks Hoggins was brilliant, because they just had the confidence that they had black pencils on the shelf, and then working for Al Young, who was after them, was really interesting, because he had this thing about fine detail and the use of language in little tiny bits. So there's nice little nuggets that you pick up from people along the way. He was just great at teaching us how to swear but get away with it. Say things that are nearly rude but aren't quite.
What's the best brand you've ever worked on?
Waitrose. Waitrose is just fantastic, because they know who they are. I think they probably know less who they are than they did a few years ago, and perhaps M&S has stolen some of their clothes. But I just loved working on that, as it was a brand with a true soul, where everybody that you spoke to understood what it was. It ran like the words in a stick of rock, and the way they treated their people was the way they treated their suppliers, was the way they treated their customers, and they believed in great work. So I loved working on that.
If you weren't in this industry, what do you think you'd be doing?
I don't know. I'd probably be doing something with words, maybe something like journalism. But I was always too lazy to go out there and find the story. This is why the internet is a boon to lazy creatives who couldn't be asked to go to the bookshop and the library. But yeah, something like journalism would be interesting. Or I don't know. My oldest brother's a train driver, and my middle brother's a bus driver. So maybe it would have been a pilot or something. I don't know.
Okay, that's interesting. What are your interests outside of work?
Singing a choir. I sing in a choir on a Wednesday, which is fantastic, and really teaches some life lessons. Actually, it's quite interesting. After when you go from being the boss and judging other people's ideas to blend in, literally blend in. You have to sing with other people. You have to listen to them, and you have to fit together. And it's kind of it has lessons for life in general. That you can't everything isn't a solo, particularly in agency life. It is about the blending together of the different skills. So that's brilliant, and it's just such an amazing release. I've got to do that on a Wednesday evening, and you think you're too knackered to do it, but actually it's a tremendous sort of boost of energy and sort of wakes me up. And then the other thing I do at the weekend is I always go for a 10k run, which means that I can run once a week and I can barely walk for the rest of the week. So,
Whereabouts do you live?
I live in Teddington, southwest London, which is a bubble and nothing at all like the real world whatsoever, and that's fantastic.
So is that where you sing in the choir and run?
Yes, yeah.
Cool. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken in your career?
Well, I would say I haven't taken enough risks, really, and I think that's what I would say to anybody starting off is take the leap. But I suppose it's a big risk doing it in the first place. It's not a secure job. It's quite terrifying. I also always wonder what happens to people once they hit 40, and my mum still worries about it. My mum had a terrible worry when I had my 40th birthday. She said, "But you told me that there aren't any people over 40 who are in this. Where do they go? What do they do?" So it is a tremendous risk. It's not a secure job in the first place. I took a big leap in '06 when I said, "This is all very nice, working at Banks Hawkins O'Shea or FCB London as it was then. This is lovely, and and I could keep on doing this, but it's time to do something to have a bit more of a challenge." So I went off and was creative director at WDMP, and that was terrifying and scary and a huge culture shock. And it's the right thing to do, but it wasn't the safe thing to do.
Okay, let's move on to a quick fire round. FWA or NMA?
I've heard of NMA, so I'll go with them.
Can Lion or D&AD pencil?
See, I always think D&AD is it, but I'm kind of aware that for the rest of the world it's Can, but again, D&AD is the thing that you want.
Digital design or graphic design?
I think they shouldn't be separate things, really. I think ultimately, the idea that you specialise and there are walls between the two is kind of get a bit weird, really. And we want this, we're trying to collaborate as much as possible.
Creatives or suits?
Creatives, obviously.
Apple or Android?
Apple. Got to be Apple. Yeah.
Degree or no degree?
Well, it depends what for, doesn't it, really? You don't need a degree to do what we do, but and I didn't do a degree, and I wish I had. I think it looks like great fun.
So when you're looking at, if you're comparing two different creatives, one has a degree and one hasn't, does that not matter?
Relevant, yeah. It's just about their buck and their attitude, really. But it's your ideas, and that's your degree. Is how good a book have you got.
Okay. Retained work or pitch work?
Well, retained work is the gold standard. That's what you need to build a culture of an agency. You need retained business. But pitch work is what keeps an agency alive, and that's no relationship. Well, few relationships last forever. So you need to keep pitching. But also, I think that's what gives an agency its mojo. Really, is that. And even when it's not a pitch, treating the project like a pitch anyway. And one of the most exciting things that I was ever involved with was when we pitched at Draft FCB, we pitched to retain teacher training account, and we had a kill team, and so we had somebody saying that everything you're doing is shit and you should do something else instead, and saying what was wrong, and then we put it all together. So things like that are tremendously what make an agency and what makes your learning come alive. It's where you get the most from it.
So what would you go for, retained work or pitch work?
Pitch work sounds more exciting.
Web or mobile?
I think web, yeah.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Independent agencies, yeah.
Outsourced production or on-site production?
Yes, it's not that bad. I see you in your black and white questions. Outsourced, generally, yeah. Outsourced for things that you don't need to do.
Miami Ad School or Hyper Island?
Don't know really much about you then.
Watford or Bucks?
Watford, that's where I went, that's the place.
And lastly, Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
John Draper, obviously, yeah. He's the man.
Cool, thank you very much.
Cheers.